Greetings gamers, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over how to play Dragon Ball TCG made by Score Entertainment. This was made back then in 2000. It started off with Sand Saga and it continued in chronological order just like the anime, ending at Kid Buu Saga. Now after Kid Buu Saga, they made the GT version of this game, and then it ended, and this got remade back then in 2014 by Panini. Panini rebooted it. This is my favorite card game. I remember back then, a long time ago as a kid, when I first played it, I didn't understand it. It was kind of complicated, but that was back then in Sand Saga because there was no such things as masteries, which we'll go over later. I pretty much just had all my cards just put together and was just playing. But other than that, we'll get started with the game. Object of the game is to defeat your opponent. There's 3 ways to win. The first way to win is the survival victory, which is pretty much you being the last man standing by emptying out your opponent's life deck. Right there. The second way to win is by you controlling all 7 of the Dragon Balls. That's the Dragon Ball victory. And the last way to win is by most powerful personality victory, which is you advancing to the highest power level of your personality. Now, let's say you have a level 4 and your opponent has a level 5. You cannot win by MPPV because your opponent has a higher level personality than you. And how would you level up is you gaining 5 anger. And there's other abilities on cards that help you advance personalities as well. Alright, now that we know how to win the game, we're going to talk about all the cards. So first I do want to go over the personality cards. So this is your main personality, and in order to be able to play them as your main personality, you need to have levels 1 through 3. If you do not have a character that is 1 through 3, you cannot play them as a main personality. Now main personalities go all the way up to level 5, as you can see here. And when you play this game, you don't have to have the personalities match up from the same saga. You can mix and match them. So I can have a Goku level 1 in Sand Saga, Goku level 2 in Frieza Saga, Goku level 3 Cell Saga, and a Goku level 4 and 5 in Majin Buu Saga. Other than that, we'll go over this right here. So if you take a look at this card, let me just have it focus in. As you can see right here is your power level. That's going to be showing how strong your character is. And whenever you're fighting, that's doing physical attacks, you're comparing your power stages to your opponent. Going over right here is your power. So personalities have a constant power or just a regular power, which can be used during combat. And then over here is your power up rating. That's how much you power up during your non-combat step, which we'll go over later. After that, let's just focus on these 3 cards right here. So those cards are your combat cards. So with your combat cards, you have 3 different types of basic cards for combat. That's your physical combat card, your energy combat card, and then your regular combat card. That's what you use during combat. Now, physical combat cards is exactly what it sounds like. You're fighting them with your fists. Energy combat is you using beams to fight. Now with those cards, it gets broken down into physical and energy combat attacks and then combat blocks, and it will state if it's an attack or if it's a block. Now regular combat cards like this, they're used during combat, and it tells you when to use it. Like it will say like when used when attacking. If it doesn't tell you when to use it, you have to use it during your like exactly when you play an attack or when you play an energy attack as well, physical attack or energy attack. Moving on to this lower row down here, these are all your non-combat cards. So the non-combat cards are exactly what it sounds like. You play them during non-combat, and some of them have powers that you use during combat. As you can see right here, energy gathering. This takes one of your like actions in combat to use. but you have to play it during your non-combat. So picture it as you preparing and you setting up for combat. So you do have your drills. So think of your drills as like your skills, your martial arts skills that you gain, that you learn throughout your training. These have really good effects, but whenever you level up, you have to discard these unless an effect lets you keep them. Next is your battlegrounds and locations. So your battleground locations just shows where you fight at. And whenever you play this during your non-combat step, you cannot go into combat because it's pretty much like you traveling to your combat to prepare to fight. Next are your Dragon Ball cards. These have really good effects, which can help you throughout combat. And also they could get captured. Typically how they get captured is whenever your opponent deals 5 life cards of damage to you, they could take your Dragon Ball and then use their effects. Or there's cards that say capture the Dragon Ball. And then last but not least, if you have a certain ally, for example, Bulma, Krillin, Chi-Chi, those types of cards as an ally, whenever they take control of battle and they deal damage of life cards, then what they can do is instead of doing the life cards, they can end up taking a Dragon Ball. And then next right here, the last one is just a regular non-combat card that it's just a setup that will help you during combat. Other than that, we're going to go over to your mastery cards. So your mastery cards, pretty much what they do is they prove that your main personality has achieved the mastery of a martial arts style. The mastery cards, there's freestyle, there's sand mastery, there's red, blue, black, orange, and Namekian. So that just shows what you are the style of. Obviously, if you have the sand style mastery, you have to be a sand. So Piccolo or Krillin or Chi-Chi can't use a sand style mastery because they're not sands. And same for Namekians. Only Namekians can use the Namekian style mastery. Next is your sensei cards, which are right here. So pretty much what the sensei cards are is they represent a martial arts teacher that keeps watch over your sensei deck and prepare you for the fight ahead. So whenever you have cards in here, this number shows how many of your cards could be in your sensei deck. And pretty much what that is you can swap cards from your sensei deck into your main deck by removing the cards from the top of your deck of how many you want to add from your sensei deck. I don't have it on me, it's in my binder, but you have fusion cards too, like Gotenks and Vegito. And the only way to be able to play them is if you have like the Patara earrings or the fusion damage. Alright, now let's just prepare for a game. So what you'll do is you'll show off your character at level 1, and then you declare how many levels that you have. So for example, I'll show off my Goku and I'll declare to my opponent that my Goku goes up to level 5, and then after that you will show your mastery. And then once that is done, you also announce if your character is a rogue player, and then if they're going to be played as a hero or a villain. So there's obviously multiple rogue players, but the main rogue player that you can think of is Vegeta. So with Vegeta, you have to declare if he's going to be a hero or a villain. And once you declare that, then if your Vegeta has any allies in their deck, they have to be the same as what Vegeta's playing as. So if Vegeta is declared as a hero, he cannot have any villains in his deck, and vice versa. Now once that's done, you'll put your level 1 character at 5 stages above 0, then you'll compare their power rating. Now if your opponent's power rating is double yours, so for example, if I'm at 1 million and then my opponent's at 2 billion or higher, then the double power rule happens. And what that means is, for me, I will go to my max, which is 10 stages above 0, and then my opponent will go 2 stages above 0. And then the person who's at the highest level right there at full stages goes first. Now normally, if you guys are equal and y'all stay at 5 stages above 0, then the hero goes first if you're playing against a villain. But if you're both villains or both heroes, then you'll just play like rock, paper, scissors and see who goes first. Now once you do that, you'll shuffle your deck, and then after you shuffle your deck, you'll put in how many cards you want in your sensei deck, and you remove that amount from your life deck. Now once you do that, as starting player, that's when you draw your 3 cards. So whenever you're the starting player or the player whose turn it is, that's when you draw cards. And then the defending player, whenever you enter combat, that's when you will draw your cards. So next we'll go over the sequence of play for one complete turn. There are 7 steps to each turn. Once you've gone through all 7 steps, you will have completed your turn as the active player. The active player is the person whose turn it is. When you are the active player, you can play in all steps of a turn and are the person who can declare combat. And so now diving deep through all 7 steps. So the first step is the draw step. So if you're the active player, you draw the top 3 cards of your life deck and put them in your hand. You always draw from the top of your life deck, okay? Next is step 2, which is the non-combat step. So if you're the active player, you're now able to play allies, Dragon Balls, Battlegrounds, locations, and non-combat cards, which include drills, from your hand and place them into play. Only the active player can place cards in play during this step. Next is step 3, which is the power-up step. So if you're the active player, your main personality powers up by moving his scouter up a number of power stages equal to his power-up rating, which is right here. But if you declare Tokiwaza, which means if you have a mastery, that number's increased by 1. I also want to say that a personality cannot go above his highest power stage, and all your allies also power up during this step, but only go up 1 power stage regardless of their power up rating. Next is step 4, which is your declare step. In this step, you declare if you're going to enter combat with your opponent. If you choose not to declare, then you skip the combat step and then you go straight to the discard step. But if you place a battleground or a location in play in the non-combat step, you have to skip your combat step this turn, because that, again, it counts as you traveling to the location where you're going to fight. So after you declare your combat step, that's when you move on to step 5, which is the combat step actually. So during this phase, if you are the active player, you can declare an attack on your opponent and attempt to reduce your opponent's life deck and power stages in anger. But just remember, your opponent gets to attack you back later in this step. So you guys just go back and forth playing cards. So once the combat step is over with, which means both of you guys pass during that, then you move to your discard step. So during this step, both players have to discard down to 1 card in their hand. If you want to, you can discard all your cards, but just know you'll be put at a disadvantage because your opponent will keep 1. Most of the time you're keeping 1 card, so your opponent will be at an advantage against you if you end up discarding all your cards. So just keep that in mind. Now, when you do enter combat, there's when entering effects. So when a card says when entering, so I believe my mastery has a when entering. Right here, yes. Draw a card when entering combat. So you have when entering effects. So it goes to the active player first. He does all his when entering, and then after that it goes to the defender. They access their when entering effects. And like I said again, guys, whenever you're playing cards during combat step, you can gain anger, and if you have 5 anger, that's when you level up your personality. And then when you level up, that is when you'll go to max on the level that you ascend to. Now also want to let you guys know that whenever you play allies can take control of combat, but only if your character is 1 power stage above 0 or at 0. And that's really helpful for you because your ally can absorb damage that your main personality doesn't have to take, so it doesn't hurt you as bad. Now, whenever you play attacks, a lot of the times it's going to tell you to reference this right here. which is the physical attack table. So all you do is, if you're the attacker, you compare your stat right here compared to the defender right here, and you'll just line it up, and that shows you what number it is, how much damage it's going to be doing. And so whatever damage it's doing, that's just how much you're going to take off your opponent's power stages. Now, whenever opponents or you are at 0 and a power stage, and it's supposed to deal more power stages to you, then the rest of the numbers is taken from your life cards. There are cards that have endurance. Endurance are removed from play, and you get that endurance plus the card. So this right here is endurance 2, so if you can see. So if I take any type of damage, if I remove this card from my damage because of endurance 2, that counts as 3, because it counts as endurance 2 plus this card itself. Now with sand cards, sands are really big with endurance. I also do want to go over a final physical. So with the final physical, you just declare you're doing the final physical, and you discard a card from your hand, and that just counts AT. So you'll just, it's not any additions to your AT unless you have adders already, but it's just, you just compare the AT of your attack table. That's how much damage a final physical does. Now when the final physical, when you do declare that, that is you stating you can't do anything else for the remainder of combat. So keep that in mind whenever you do your final physical. There is a step where if you do not go into combat, there's the rejuvenation step. This only happens to the active player. If you don't go into combat and you discard down to 1 card in hand, you rejuvenate, which means you get the top card of your life deck and you put it underneath your deck. Now we'll go talk about deck building. So with this game, you're allowed 85 cards for your deck, and that's including your personality. Now if you're Namekian, it goes to 90. And with that being said, so there's 3 copies max that you can have in a deck. But if you have a card that is a name card and it's on your personality that you're playing with, you can have up to 4 copies of that in your deck. So any type of Goku attacks, like Goku's Kamehameha, I can have 4 of those in my deck because my main personality is Goku. Other than that, that's pretty much it with this game. This game's relatively easy. I don't know why I thought it was so hard back then when I was like 11 years old. But I used to think this game was so hard. I thought I was playing it wrong, but actually looking back at it, I was playing it right, because you could just throw in cards into your deck and you not declare a Tokiwaza. So I had like blue style, sand style, mastery when I was playing with like a sand, obviously. And I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but you are doing it right if you don't declare Tokiwaza. Now, if you do declare Tokiwaza, you can only have those types of cards plus any type of freestyle, which is a name card in your deck. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much it for this game. Like I said, this is my favorite card game. It is very fun. The Panini one is pretty cool. So if you do want to get into this game, that's probably the best way for you to get into this game, is playing the Panini one, because this game is a very dead card game and it's pretty expensive. But the Panini is not that expensive. It's relatively affordable. And then also the GT version, I might make a video on that because there's some nuances that's a little bit different. You could play Dragon Ball Z score versus a GT score, but there is a huge power creep in there. But if you do play it that way, you're going to have to play with the GT rules. But other than that, guys, thanks again for watching. I hope this video was good for you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Later.